вашої уваги новий проект Українського кризового медіа-центру під назвою «Речник мирного життя». Наразі дуже багато людей на східних територіях повертаються або ж намагаються повернутися до мирного життя. Метою нашого проекту, відповідно, є моніторити та повідомляти вас, дорогі колеги-журналісти, щодо стану відновлення східних територій і повернення цих людей до мирного життя. Ми будемо шляхом запрошення релевантних спікерів або ж через скайп-включення, або через запрошення саме сюди на цю платформу, будемо шукати шляхи виходу із цієї ситуації та шляхи того, як повернути мирних людей до мирного життя. У рамках цього проекту сьогодні ми будемо говорити про благодійну міжнародну підтримку переселенців та мешканців прифронтових зон Луганської області. Нашим спікером є Мілаковський, координатор з комунікації міжнародної благодійної організації Mercy Corps. Пане Брайане, до слова. Прошу вас.
Good afternoon. My name is Milakovsky. As you know already, I'm communications coordinator at the international charity organization Mercy Corps. We are working with more than 40 countries all over the world, everywhere where people are in grief because of military actions or natural disasters. Our program in Ukraine was open spring this year, and still we are working only in Luhansk region. Today I will tell you about our programs of help to IDPs, residents of frontline cities, and peaceful population in general of Luhansk region, and I'm talking about government-controlled territories. Our program has few directions. The main goal is to provide to the people who suffered from military actions the safe home, as our principle is one warm and dry room, and we are trying to renew these conditions for families who lost their houses during military actions. We are trying to provide basic support, basic finance support to let people who suffered from military action to have money for food, for example, or for hygiene. And one more stream of our activities are small grants for self-occupancy. That's for the development or for the widening of small business in frontline cities and other cities of Luhansk region, where IDPs are living or where there are entrepreneurs who are ready to hire IDPs. And members of the family are also included into the programs, and it's a very important part of our program. I'll show you a few photos now, the photos of our activities in Luhansk region. I'll start from the repair of the houses. As I told already, we are trying to restore houses for peaceful citizens. At least we will restore one room in their house to have warm and dry room in their home. Of course, if it's possible, we restore more, but one room is our minimum goal. Mainly we are working in the area that is called frontline area now. Here on the pictures there is Stanitsa Luganska. Everybody knows this village. Everybody knows how much it was injured during the last 1 year and a half. For today 202 buildings are completed or on the final stage of repair already. Very often our beneficiaries are pensioners, old people, disabled persons, people who just couldn't leave during the military action, and many of them never left their territories, never left this village. All the time of the conflict they spent in this village, and it's especially important before the winter, this hot season, to provide them at least this basic support. Here you can see the state of the buildings before we start working, and we have the whole crew of engineers in our team working with city administration to evaluate the level of the injuries. They work with local suppliers to provide these building materials, so it's contribution to local economics as well. Sometimes materials this work together with local workforce, but very often we are talking about heavy damage of the houses, as you can see on the photo. In this case, the owner of the house is the woman who left during military action from Stanitsa Lugansk, but returned because she had not enough money to stay in the city where she ran away. And she returned during the military action just because she didn't have money to stay outside. Except for private buildings, in the city Shastya, we work on the repair of multi-store buildings. Here you can see, I will show you before and after pictures. That is after. That's after shelling, but before the repair. And that is after repair. It was made by local workforce, by the materials provided by Mercy Corps, and the management of our engineers. One more example. And we are planning to wide our work on repairing multi-store buildings to the city Popasne. I think everybody knows how much it was damaged. And we have more than 100 buildings in our plans. I'm sorry, more than 100 apartments. There are 7 multi-store buildings, so we will wide our program on buildings repair to other cities. Krymskaya also, that was damaged heavily during the winter. In Lysychansk, in Novotroitsk, in the cities where local administrations or local activists informed our engineers, there is a real need, there are people in grief, and when we have resources to help them. Here you can see examples from Popasne. It's not usual practice for us to work with the building in such a state, because it's clear this house needs capital overhaul, but in this case, family was so desperate that we needed to help them. We needed to provide materials for the roof, for building. Other organizations provided material for the walls, so the families that will live in this house, they left Popasna one day before direct shell of Grad came here, and they lost their parents. And now they will have house before winter comes. what we see here, the walls were not made by us. The walls were made by the force of this family and church volunteers from Berdicheva, but the roof and the windows were provided by us. I visited that family, and I was surprised by that feeling of hope that this winter won't be the same as last year. They can see the light at the end of tunnel, because when I'm talking to our partners, to the people who get the help, that feeling is very wide now. That feeling of hope. And we hope very much that it will keep going on, and these people won't go to their basement this winter as well. We really hope for that. One more stream of our work, of our organization, we provide food help in frontline villages. This summer and autumn, we gave more than 5,000 packs of World UN Food Program in Novaidarsky, Desnyansky districts, according to the list we developed together with local administrations, because we wanted this food to be transferred to the most vulnerable categories of population. But we are constantly trying to widen these categories, because a lot of organizations are working in Donbass now, especially in frontline area. Sometimes all of us want help the same categories of population. And there are white spots, because the people who are not the most vulnerable, but nobody helps them. For example, the people who can work still, but in the places where they can't work. All the organizations work together, we are coordinated together with UN. We are trying to identify these white spots and provide the help for these people as well. Here we can see in Pobeda village, in Popasnyansky or Novaidarsky district, I can't tell you exactly. There were heavy damages during the military actions. And here we can see that very often we help pensioners, also families with many kids, lonely moms. This program it becomes more and more wide, and in the nearest future we will decide where we will give dozens of food packs.
As well, we provide for just monetary assistance, allowance. People living in villages or settlements and towns where the banking system is still working. Again, this is UN action, and this is a first stage. 11,000 recipients. Most of them are IDPs, local citizens, 11,000 beneficiaries in Luhansk area, and we will have 11,000 more of recipients this winter. In continuation of this program, this amount, 450 hryvnia, 3 times in 3 months. Of course, it's not a tremendous fortune, but this is the money to support the most vulnerable categories of people, to have at least certain amount in their pockets to survive, to buy food, and 1,200 people were given certain monetary assistance for hygienic purposes, non-foodstuff allowance. And finally, the support for self-employment of IDPs and citizens of frontline areas and people who have in their families the IDPs. We have 800 grants for 500 grants for $800 in Starokurachevsky, Starobelsky, Novotroitsk regions. And this is a rather complicated process, but it calls for great involvement of our beneficiaries. They prepare their business plans, then we'll have trainings for them with an expert in small business activity from Kharkiv. Next, they develop their business plan with the experts from Luhansk National University after Shevchenko, with the experts from that university in entrepreneurship and science. And our recipients in this program, they just not have $500 to develop their small business, but as well they have their crash courses in development of their small businesses, which is very important for people who before worked in bigger enterprises, and now for the first time in their life they try to create their own business. Of course, I would like to say that this is after our grant, but this photo was shot before, and he lost his breeding house of decorative bushes. He was heavily wounded, and he lives now in with his wife and his daughter. He's using supports to move, and of course we will recover his business. At present we only have modest support for him, but in the future hopefully we will expand our help for such people. Very briefly, we have hotline. Anybody would be able to understand how to participate in our programs. As I mentioned before, we work in Lugansk area, and if we are speaking about monetary support, then we work in all the areas of Lugansk region except for Lysychansk, Kremennoye, Novorubezhne and Popasna. If you live in Lugansk region that is controlled by the state, please call, and you are IDP, call our hotline to understand how to participate on our programs. 0800 3073. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Now Q&A session, and first question on behalf of Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. Do you have any plans in your organizations in the future to expand its activity over Donetsk area? As I mentioned before, we have a lot of international Ukrainian charitable organizations that work in Donetsk, in Donbass area. We try not to overlap our efforts. We try to find out, to identify our own niche in order to provide help for the maximum possible amount of people. Many other organizations work there, and we understand that in Lugansk region we have the maximum effect. Why specifically Lugansk region, not Donetsk? When our top managers came to Ukraine this spring, they immediately understood that Donetsk is much more well known all over the world, and many organizations they came to that region, but in Lugansk region the need is not less acute. Another issue in Lugansk region, do you work either in the non-controlled territories? We have programs for that part of Lugansk region. I believe that everybody knows that there is certain difficulties there in registration of international organization. We are trying to recover our programs in that part of Lugansk region. Sergey Malarchuk, UCMC. Brian, first of all, thank you very much for your activity. This is, of course, a great impact in recovery of the region that was hurt as a result of the combat actions, and by large, it will be a great help to recover this region and for resettlers to come back. My question is, you mentioned that Mercy Corps, your organization, works in more than 40 countries all over the world. From your own experience, have you ever visited other countries with a similar mission? What are the major differences of this mission from your other missions? And probably you already could tell us what temporary Lugansk administration could do in sense of assisting you in your activity, what assistance you expect to have from them in your activity. My answer for your first question, yes, in fact, Ukraine is the first country and the first my first experience in this humanitarian assistance. Mercy Corps, I was very happy to join it because I wanted to help IDPs in Donbass, but our program director for Ukraine, Stuart Wilcox, he worked in a dozen countries, and I believe that he could tell you many interesting stories from former Yugoslavia, from Karabakh region, from Gaza sector, and to compare this with his experience in Ukraine. But unfortunately, I do not have this type of experience. Yes, we do have very productive cooperation with the Lugansk state administration, with various institutions, agencies. We have regular meetings with governor in humanitarian issues, and we do not have any bigger issues there. But the constant problem is to understand, to identify people who are most in a need, whose need is the greatest, and it's of course a great challenge to identify their data, because there was a massive resettlement of people. A lot of lists were plotted for IDPs, so this process is rather complicated, and we are trying to make it better, to have realistic help to real people rather than just turn the documents or shuffle them. Again, in the most intensive combat times, where a lot of national organizations were not present, the greatest task was undertaken by Ukrainian volunteer organizations, and I believe that this is just a deed of a hero. And this movement It's very impressive, this movement to assist people. We came here in the times of Minsk too, when it was rather calm here. But local volunteers, they worked in very hot situation. Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you for your briefing. Unfortunately, we do not have more time for questions. Hopefully, we will